In the nearly 7 years since the shootings at Sandy Hook Elementary School, where 20 first graders and 6 adults were murdered, there has been a lot of focus on the issue of gun control, especially the lack of action in Washington to deal with the epidemic of gun violence in this country. But some parents of the victims, they've also found other ways to deal with the tragedy and try to prevent the next one. Scarlett Lewis, she's one of those parents. She lost her son Jesse on that horrific day. Jesse, he's credited with saving lives of his classmates by yelling for them to run when the shooter's gun jammed. In the wake of that tragedy, Scarlett formed the Jesse Lewis Choose Love movement. That organization focuses on teaching social and emotional skills to school kids to help them cope with the stresses of life. Well, yesterday afternoon in Danbury, Connecticut, several hundred people attended a benefit concert for that organization and also to celebrate what would have been Jesse's birthday. It featured John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band, food trucks, activities for kids, and a lot more. Well, we caught up with Scarlett at the event, and she described the work that they're doing.
So we created a program that is no cost. It is lifespan. So it is for infant, toddler, pre-K through 12th grade, for homes and communities. And it teaches individuals how to thoughtfully respond with love.
Our own Andrew Whitman, he also recently sat down with Scarlett here on her set, and they discussed Jesse's legacy and how she's carrying that on.
Scarlett, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. You lost your son, Jesse, at Sandy Hook. He is the inspiration for your movement. Tell us about Jesse and what you know about his final moments, if you would.
Yeah, so Jesse's final moments consisted of saving 9 of his classmates' lives. The gunman had murdered his principal and counselor right outside the door, and then turned into Jesse's first grade classroom, and his gun either jammed or ran out of bullets. And during the short delay, Jesse called to 9 of his classmates to run, and they said it's because he called for them to run that they ran, and he was able to save those lives.
There's so much of your experience that I cannot imagine and put myself in your shoes. When you first learned about that, what was your reaction? What's your reaction now when you think about it?
I think that that is very much who Jesse was. And when I heard that, you know, I had been thinking, waiting at the firehouse for all of those hours, hoping that he would be found and come back to us. And then when he didn't, I thought that he had probably done something very brave if he wasn't coming back, and it turned out that he did, so I wasn't surprised.
It's been more than 6.5 years since Sandy Hook, and seemingly, at least on the national level, no movement on gun safety, no movement on preventing gun violence. What's your reaction to that fact, and why don't you think more has happened?
I looked at what was happening after Sandy Hook, and I saw that both sides, I felt, were really coming from a point of fear. And I thought about, well, first of all, I didn't want to be against something. I wanted to be for something. And I thought, what's the most powerful thing that transcends fear, that really could have prevented the tragedy? And I thought that it was love. And I decided to focus on education, and a lot of that was from a message that Jesse left on our kitchen chalkboard shortly before he died. He wrote 3 words: nurturing, healing, love. Now, those words were phonetically spelled because he was in first grade and just learning to write, but they really directed my efforts. And I was connected to a doctoral professor at Western Connecticut State University, Dr. Chris Cook. He came in, I said, how do I get this message into schools? Because I know that if the shooter had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, the tragedy would never have happened. It was as simple as that. And he told me that it was called social and emotional learning. I'd never heard about social and emotional learning. And in my research, I found that it is scientifically proven to reduce and prevent the majority of the suffering that we're seeing in our schools that then translates out into society. And that includes not only school violence, but bullying, substance abuse, suicide, anxiety, a lot of the issues that we're experiencing that are just escalating now, we could proactively reduce and prevent the suffering before it starts.
It's really impressive because so much of the focus on organizations or movements or whatever the case may be after these mass shootings is on the victims and preventing their victimhood or removing the tools. This approach really seems more aimed at the young man who took your son's life and being able to prevent some of the development that went astray for him, which really seems like a unique approach.
When I look at the shooter's life, I see that he did everything right until the last couple of years of his life. He had needs that were known that weren't met. He cried out for help in many different ways. He waved big red flags. And so, the key is to being present and to addressing needs that are known. And I actually feel compassion as well, because I know that somebody that could do something so heinous must have been in a tremendous amount of pain. In fact, one of the most important lessons that I've learned over the past 6 years is that there are only two kinds of people in the world: good people and good people in pain. And that's a positive statement, because there's always something we can do to help ease another's pain.
It is truly remarkable that you have managed to find such a positive from the midst of such a horrible, horrible tragedy. And I thank you for your efforts. I thank you for speaking with us. I wish you the best of luck. Scarlett Lewis of the Jesse Lewis Choose Love movement, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be right back with more for RFL.